Okay, that silly fool. He thinks he can put an 18-inch bowl blank on a 16-inch swing lathe. Crazy fool. Well, you think he might be able to do it? Well, you could be right. Hang around. We'll see. Hey, Woodpops here. In this episode of Expressions in Wood, I'm going to be making a 16-inch sycamore bowl from a tree that blew down during Hurricane Irma here in Orlando. And I'm going to put a crushed stone inlay rim on that bowl, and that crushed stone inlay rim is just going to be attached on the bottom. The inside, the outside, and the top are going to be free. Never done anything like this before. This is the first time, so we'll see if it'll work. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a metal leaf band about a 1/2 inch wide right underneath my crushed stone inlay, and then I'm going to put a chemical patina on it. So we'll see how these two go together, the metal and the stone. It's going to be a pretty long video, about 30 minutes, so you might want to chill down some beer, pop some popcorn, kick off your shoes, sit back and relax. This is a good one. All right, all right, all right. Let's go. I keep measuring this because when I get it down to 15 3/4 inches, then I can swing this over the bed and core it out with my woodcut system. I'm preparing my bowl blank to use the woodcut system to core out this center, and I want to have a mortise right in the center of it so that I can attach this cored out blank with my 4-jaw chuck. We're trying something new. That's why I haven't turned the inside yet. I've left a lot of this mass in here to support the walls, because sometimes I found that when I do a big bowl like this and do an inlay, through the process of inlay, the bowl moves a little bit, it gets a little bit out of round, and that makes it more difficult to do the outside edge of the inlay. So what I'm going to try on this one is leaving this mass in here for support. I'm going to inlay it,
I'm going to do all the inlay work, get that all finished, and then I'm going to come back inside and remove the mass. So, who knows? Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
I'm getting ready to do the crushed stone inlay, and my wife has asked for a multicolored inlay, so I'm mixing all of my crushed stone together. Once I get all the colors mixed together and they look the way that I want them, then I'll go through the grading process of separating them into the 5 different sizes so that I can inlay them properly. I'm going to start the crushed stone inlay process by using the number 3 grade. I'll sprinkle them in all over the bottom and make sure that the pieces fall down into the grooves that I've cut in the bottom of the inlay channel. In this way, I'm hoping that this will hold my crushed stone inlay rim to the bowl. I have to make sure that all of these little pieces get into all of the crevices down in my channel. I'm going to follow my standard crushed stone inlay process. If you haven't seen that process, I have a video. You want to be sure and catch it. Crushed stone inlay for your wood turn pieces. At this point, I'm going to super glue the entire crushed stone inlay into the bowl. Continue adding various sizes of crushed stone to fill in the rest of your groove. Make sure that you use different sizes and make sure that you fill in all around each piece so that you get a good solid crushed stone inlay rim. When you're satisfied that your crushed stone is completely filled in the channel and you have no voids, then you can go ahead and put your final application of Starbond super thin CA glue. This is how your cemented crushed stone inlay should look.
Really dusty work. I've got both of my fans going. I've got my garage door completely open. As you can see, I'm wearing my RZ dust mask. I highly recommend this, unless you have a respirator. Mine happens to be down at the moment, so I'm relying on my dust mask and the ventilation, because this stone that I'm sanding here has CA glue in it, and it has wood dust in it, so imagine it's not real good for your lungs. So you really want to be careful and protect yourself when you're doing this. And of course your eyeglasses, you got to have your safety glasses on, because this stuff comes up, dust, horrible in your eyes. I'm going to be looking for some large pockets of air, pits. There's no cracks, but there's pits and holes where the super glue and the crushed stone didn't get in, didn't settle in. So we have voids there. So I'll be filling those along as I go. So as I'm trimming down the outside and inside wood, I'll also be filling in the cracks and the voids as I go, so that I'm sanding them as I go. Hopefully, what I'll finally end up with is a nice beaded rim that is exposed on three sides: the top, the outside, and the inside. So that'll be a nice rounded over beaded rim exposed on three sides, only connected on the bottom to the wood. First time I've tried this, we'll see how it goes. Once I get that done, then I'm going to come back to the inside here and I'm going to start turning away the inside wood, because right now I've left this mass right here to support my crushed stone inlay out here, because I don't want any wobble or vibration or anything. So I'm hoping that leaving this mass in here will give me enough support to stop that vibration. The whole point of all of this is to not make any stress on the crushed stone inlay, because it's only going to be attached on the bottom side. Hopefully this will work. If it doesn't, you'll be the first to know. Well, second, I'll be the first to know. Okay, let's get back to it.
As you can see, I've sanded and cut away the outside of the crushed stone inlay rim, the wooden part. I've also sanded it with 80 grit sandpaper, and I have exposed several voids. I then filled the voids with black Starbond CA glue. From this point, I'll continue to sand it, and using 60 grit sandpaper, I'll round over the outside edge. At this point, I'm ready to expose the inside edge of my crushed stone inlay. So I'll be using my bowl gouge to cut away the wood about an inch and a half below the end of my crushed stone. I'm ready to sand and fill any voids on the inside of my crushed stone inlay rim, but not before I add my shellac solution to keep the wood from staining. With my crushed stone inlay rim sanded and polished, I think I'm ready to finish turning out the bowl. Notice how I've left the mortise in the center of my bowl for my 4-inch 4-jaw chucks, so I can put my chuck in here and reverse turn the bowl
Well, here we are with the big bowl. I've got it sanded all the way through 220 grit. I've got 99% of the little tiny holes in the crushed stone inlay rim filled. And the next step I'll do is I'll fill those little tiny holes with some Starbond thick CA glue. And we're talking about just pinpricks. And so I'll fill those in and I'll let them dry, and then I'll sand them off smooth with 220 grit. Because from 320 grit all the way through 12,000, which is what I do crushed stone inlay, we'll just be polishing. We won't be sanding anymore. So there shouldn't be any more instances of little potholes opening up, which is what happens as you sand. As you sand with the lower grits, voids in the crushed stone are exposed, and you got to fill those in. So I've done that process 4 times now, where I've sanded with 80 grit and then filled in the holes, and then sanded with 100 grit, filled in the holes, sanded with 120 grit, filled in the holes. You get the picture. You got to constantly be looking for new holes as you go up through the grits to about 220. When you get to 220, you fill in the last holes, you sand those just with a piece of paper, just to sand them lightly to get them down. From that point on, 320 through 12,000, you're just polishing. You don't have to worry about opening any more grit up. Opening any more holes up. Okay, you got that? So here's the bowl. You can see that I've got it pretty much finished. I still have it on my chuck because I want to put it back on. And it's easier to work with this big giant bowl on the lathe than sitting on a table somewhere, so I'll just leave it on the lathe. Okay? One thing I want to mention here, now that we've come this far, remember in the beginning, I told you, because this was such a big bowl, and I was going to put stone in the rim, I didn't know if the rim would vibrate. So I left all that wood in the center and turned it out almost at the last minute. Well, I was a little premature in turning that wood out and finishing the wood turning part of the bowl. I should have left it in a little longer, because once I turned that out, sure enough, this rim with this stone in it, different densities at different places, the bowl goes like this. So once you get that out, you've got this stone rim on here. There's nothing more you can do. You can't turn this anymore because it's not true. You're pretty much stuck with what you have. So the next step in the process is I'm going to start polishing the rim. I'm going to sand the bowl all the way through about 1,000 grit, and then the wood part will be finished. And then from 1,000 up to 12,000, I'll just be polishing the rim. Okay, and once I get that done, then I'll work on this treatment that I'm going to do underneath the crushed stone. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so back to work. We're not quite finished. Okay. We have our big bowl here. I put it back on the lathe, and I'm going to put, as you can see, painter's tape. I've used regular blue painter's tape, and I've covered up my crushed stone inlay rim here. Don't want to get any metal leaf size on it. And I've also put blue painter's tape around the edge over here to define my metal leaf right here that's going to go between my crushed stone inlay and my defining black line that I put in the bowl with my pointy tool, my pyramid tool, and then I burned it with a wire to make it black. You can see I have the black line right there that I burned in, filled it in with super glue, and now I'm putting the painter's tape over it, so I don't want to get any size in there. You can see right there the same thing. I've got my crushed stone inlay and then this bit of wood, and I'm just going to put this painter's tape on it. I'm applying the size with just smooth little brush strokes. Soft bristle brush. I want to get all the brush marks out. Once I have this on here, it takes about 30 minutes for it to set up, and then I have about 30 minutes working time. If you want to see how this is done, click that I button up there in the corner that I'm pointing at. That'll take you to a video that shows how I do a complete vase, putting copper leaf on it. I left this on the lathe because the bowl is so big, it's much easier to work with. Okay, we're good. Let this dry for 30 minutes. We'll be back. We'll put on the leaf. Newspaper print. I'm burnishing it with newspaper print next. When you're burnishing this on here, you want to make sure you can see the little crisp line that defines the edge of the crushed stone inlay. That'll tell you that you're getting a nice coat on there. You want it right tight up against the crushed stone inlay. That means you have to see the edge of the painter's tape through the copper leaf. You want to see that little edge. Now you can't, I won't be able to show you that with a camera because it's too small, but you get it. Brushing everything off with the gilder's brush. Looking really good. Using my fingernail to clean out that groove that I put in there. I don't want any metal leaf on the groove, inside the groove, so I'm just cleaning it out now with my fingernail. It's called Cosmic Shimmer Gilder's Flakes. Then I used a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold, you know, some variety on this because the crushed stone inlay, of course, is multicolor. First thing I'm going to use here is sodium sulfide. And the reason I'm using sodium sulfide is because David Marks from his masterclass says sodium sulfide turns copper leaf orange, then magenta, and finally blue. It also turns Dutch metal or false gold orange, then magenta, and finally blue-green or gold silver. So that's what we're working with right now. I don't need a lot. This is 1/8 of a teaspoon, and I'm just using 1/3 of it. I don't need to mix up a lot of this, and so I don't want to waste it. And then I'm going to mix it with just a little bit of warm water. Like I said, I don't need a lot. That should be ready to go. I'm going to take a dropper full and test it. I use this cheesecloth because if you notice, it's got these cross fibers and it leaves that pattern in the metal leaf, which is kind of cool. Because what happens is the fibers absorb the chemical and transfer it in those patterns onto the copper leaf. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a Q-tip, and it's got the chemical on it, and I'm going to dampen the cheesecloth. You don't have to worry about the wood or the crushed stone because this chemical is just so minute, so diluted, it has no effect on the wood. I really don't even need gloves on, but you know, better safe than sorry. I've got it on my skin and it doesn't burn. I just wipe it right off. I get some of the chemical in the eyedropper and I just put it on there because the next thing I'm going to put on is going to be tissue paper. And tissue paper, you'll see, holds the chemical right up next to the metal leaf. See how that dampens? It transfers that moisture from the chemical right down to the copper leaf. And you just repeat the process all the way around. My eyedropper, adding some fluid. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on this. I'm going to do a whole series on this, so just stay tuned, and I'm going to have a tutorial on how to do this from start to finish. Hey, I hope you liked that episode. If so, please say something down in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate it if you click on my picture down there and then ring the bell so that you'll be notified. And I've picked out a special video for you to watch next. It's right over there.